The ship called Horizon came out of faster-than-light travel near the edge of Volanti space. Commander Jake Morrison stood on the bridge and looked at the massive space station floating in the darkness ahead. It was beautiful in a strange way. The station was made of some kind of white crystal that glowed softly against the black of space. Jake had been a commander for 12 years. He had seen many alien stations and many alien worlds. But this one was different. The Volanti were old. They had been traveling between stars for 12,000 years. Humans had only been doing it for about 500 years. That made the Volanti very important to Earth. "Bring us in slow," Jake said to his pilot. "Let them get a good look at us." Lieutenant Emma Harris stood next to him. She was the ship's expert on alien life and alien cultures. She had studied the Volanti for 3 years before this mission. She knew their language, their customs, and their history. But she also knew that books could only teach so much. "They are scanning us," said Chief Engineer Ben Collins from his station. "Nothing aggressive. Just curious." Jake nodded. "Good. Let them look. We have nothing to hide." The Horizon moved slowly toward the station. It was a small ship compared to the massive structure ahead. The station could hold millions of people. The Horizon only held 40-7. A voice came through the communication system. It was translated automatically into English. "Human vessel Horizon, you are welcome in Volanti space. Please follow the guide lights to docking port 7. "Thank you," Jake replied. "We are honored to be here." The guide lights appeared as small blue dots leading toward an opening in the station. The pilot followed them carefully. Within 20 minutes, the Horizon was locked into place at the docking port. Jake turned to his crew. "Emma, Ben, you're with me. Everyone else stays on the ship until I say otherwise." They walked through the airlock and into the station. The air was clean and cool. The walls were made of the same white crystal as the outside. Light seemed to come from everywhere and nowhere at the same time. A group of Volanti waited for them. They were tall beings, almost 7 feet in height. Their skin was silver, and their eyes were large and purple. They moved slowly and carefully, like they were always thinking about each step before taking it. One of them stepped forward. She was dressed in robes that shimmered with many colors. A small crown of crystal sat on her head. "I am Princess Solara of the Volanti Empire," she said through her translator. "I welcome you to our station." Jake bowed his head slightly. Emma had taught him that this was the proper greeting. "I am Commander Jake Morrison of the Earth vessel Horizon. This is Dr. Emma Harris and Chief Engineer Ben Collins. We thank you for receiving us." Solara studied them with her large purple eyes. Jake could not read her expression. The Volanti face was very different from a human face. He did not know what emotions looked like on them. "Please," Solara said, "come with me. We have prepared rooms for you. Tonight, we will have a dinner in your honor." They followed her through the station. Everything was white and crystal and light. Jake noticed that other Volanti stopped to watch them pass. Some whispered to each other. Humans were still new to this part of the galaxy. They were probably the first humans many of these Volanti had ever seen. "Your station is beautiful," Emma said to the princess. Solara glanced back at her. "Thank you. It has stood for 3,000 of your years. Many generations of my people have lived and died here. 3,000 years. Jake tried to imagine it. 3,000 years ago, humans on Earth were still building with stone and bronze. Now they flew between stars. The thought made him feel both proud and small at the same time. They reached a section of the station that had been prepared for them. The rooms were large and comfortable. The Volanti had tried to make them feel more human. There were beds instead of the sleeping platforms the Volanti used. There were chairs and tables of familiar shapes. "The dinner will begin when your sun would set," Solara said. I will send someone to bring you to the hall." After she left, Jake sat down on one of the beds. It was harder than he was used to, but it would do. "What do you think?" he asked Emma. She was looking out the window at the stars. "They are very formal, very controlled. I think they are curious about us, but they are also careful. They want to understand us before they decide what to think." "That sounds reasonable." It is. It is. But there is something else." Emma turned to face him. "The Volanthi have studied many alien species. They have records on dozens of civilizations. But their reports on humans are very short. They do not understand us." "What do you mean?" "I mean, they cannot figure out how we grew so fast. We went from one planet to 47 colonies in 300 years. That is very fast, Jake. Faster than any other species they have ever seen." Ben was checking his communication device. "Maybe we are just better at building ships." Emma shook her head. "No, they have looked at our technology. It is good, but it is not that good. There is something about humans that does not match their models. Something biological." Jake thought about this. He had never considered humanity's growth to be strange. It was just what humans did. They spread out. They filled new places. They had children and built cities and made those cities into nations. "Do you think that is what the princess wants to talk about?" "I think so," Emma said. "I think she wants to solve the puzzle." The dinner that night was held in a great hall made of crystal. Light danced on the walls in patterns that changed slowly over time. The food was strange, but not unpleasant. Jake ate carefully and tried to look like he was enjoying everything. Princess Solara sat across from him. She asked polite questions about Earth, about human history, about their journey through space. Jake answered as best he could, but he could tell she was building towards something. There was a bigger question hiding behind all the small ones. "Your species is very young," Solara said at one point, "and yet you have done so much." "We try to make the most of our time," Jake replied. "Yes, that is what puzzles us." Solara leaned forward slightly. "You make the most of your time? But how? What is it about humans that drives you forward so quickly?" Jake looked at Emma. She gave him a small nod. "Perhaps," Jake said, "that is a question best discussed tomorrow, when we have more time to give it a proper answer." Solara smiled. At least, Jake thought it was a smile. "Yes, tomorrow. I look forward to it." The dinner ended late. As they walked back to their rooms, Ben shook his head slowly. "She really wants to know something," he said. "I could feel it all night." "She does," Emma agreed. "And tomorrow, I think she is going to ask." The next morning came slowly on the station. There was no real sunrise in space, but the lights in the walls shifted from dim blue to bright white to tell everyone it was time to wake up. Emma Harris was already awake when the lights changed. She had been thinking about the princess all night. She had studied the Volanthi for years, but sitting across from one at dinner was different from reading about them in books. Princess Solara was smart. That much was clear. She was also patient. She had spent the whole dinner circling around her real question without ever asking it directly. Today would be different. Emma could feel it. A soft chime sounded at her door. She opened it to find a young Volanthi standing in the hallway. He was dressed in simple white robes. "Dr. Harris," he said, "Princess Solara requests your presence in the botanical gardens." "She wishes to walk with you." Emma nodded. "Give me 5 minutes to prepare." She dressed quickly and checked her translator. It was a small device that fit behind her ear. It could translate Volanthi language in real time, but Emma preferred to listen to the original words when she could. Languages told you things about people that translations sometimes missed. The botanical gardens were in the center of the station. It was a large open space filled with plants from dozens of worlds. Some of them glowed with soft light. Others moved slowly even though there was no wind. The air smelled sweet and strange. Princess Solara was waiting near a fountain that sprayed water in patterns that seemed impossible. The water twisted and turned in ways that gravity should not allow. "Dr. Harris," Solara said, "thank you for coming. Thank you for inviting me, Princess." They began to walk together along a path made of smooth white stone. Guards followed at a distance, but they were far enough away that the conversation could be private. "I hope you slept well," Solara said. "I did. Thank you. Your station is very peaceful." Solara made a sound that might have been a laugh. "Peaceful, yes. The Volanti value peace very highly. We believe that conflict wastes energy that could be used for better things. That is a wise belief." "Perhaps. But it also makes us slow." Solara stopped walking and turned to face Emma. "Dr. Harris, I wish to ask you something personal. Among my people, questions about biology are considered intimate, private. We do not ask them of strangers. But I am told that humans are more open about such matters." Emma felt her heart beat a little faster. This was it. The question. "You can ask me anything, Princess. I will answer honestly." Solara's purple eyes seemed to grow even larger. She was nervous, Emma realized. The princess was actually nervous. "How often can your species mate?" Emma blinked. Of all the questions she had prepared for, this was not one she had expected. "I am sorry. Could you say that again?" "Mating, reproduction, the biological act that creates offspring." Solara spoke quickly, like she wanted to get the words out before she lost her courage. "How frequently are humans capable of performing this act?" Emma took a moment to think about how to answer. This was clearly important to the princess. It was also clearly something the Volanti did not understand. "Well," Emma began, "humans do not have a mating season. We can mate at any time of the year." Solara nodded slowly. "Any season. That is unusual, but not unheard of. Some other species share this trait. We can also mate at any time of day or night. There is no specific window when it must happen." "I see." Solara started walking again. Emma followed. "And how long does the act take?" "For my people, the preparation alone requires 3 days. The act itself takes several hours. And afterward, both partners must rest for a full rotation of our moon." Emma did some quick math in her head. A rotation of the Volanti moon was about 30 days. So they needed 3 days to prepare, several hours for the act, and then 30 days to recover. "For humans," Emma said carefully, "the act itself can take anywhere from a few minutes to a few hours. There is no required preparation time, and the recovery period is very short." Solara stopped walking again. "How short?" "A few minutes. Sometimes an hour. It depends on the individual." The princess stood very still. Emma could see that she was processing this information, and it was not matching what she had expected. "So a human could mate, rest for an hour, and then mate again?" "Yes. And this could happen multiple times in a single day?" "Yes. Some humans mate several times per day. There is no biological limit that prevents this." Solara turned to look at the strange plants around them. She was quiet for a long moment. When she spoke again, her voice was soft. "Among my people, a mated pair might produce 2 or 3 children in their entire lives. The act of reproduction is rare and sacred. It takes so much from us that we cannot do it often." Emma nodded. "I understand. But for humans, it is different. Our bodies are designed to reproduce frequently. A human woman can become pregnant, give birth, and become pregnant again within a year or 2. And human men? How often can they participate in reproduction? There is no limit. A man can father children throughout most of his life. Some men have fathered dozens of children. Solara made a sound that was definitely not a laugh. It was more like a gasp of surprise. Dozens? The historical records show some men fathered hundreds. But that was unusual. The princess sat down on a bench near the path. She seemed to need a moment to collect herself. Emma sat down next to her and waited. "This explains so much," Solara finally said. "We could not understand how your species grew so quickly. We looked at your technology, your ships, your colonies. None of it explained the numbers. A species that has only been in space for 500 years should not have 47 worlds. But if you consider our reproductive rate, yes." Solara looked at Emma with new understanding in her eyes. "You do not just explore faster than other species. You fill the spaces you find. You create new generations so quickly that empty worlds become crowded worlds in just a few of your generations." Emma nodded. "Humans are good at many things, Princess. But we are especially good at making more humans." Solara was quiet again. Emma could see thoughts moving behind those purple eyes. The princess was not just curious now. She was calculating. She was seeing humanity in a completely new way. "I must speak with the High Council," Solara said at last. "They will want to know about this." "Of course. I am happy to answer any questions they have." "Thank you, Dr. Harris." Solara stood up. "I believe I owe you an apology. When your ship arrived, I thought of humans as a young and minor species. Interesting, perhaps, but not significant. I was wrong. No apology is needed, Princess." "Perhaps not. But I give it anyway." Solara started walking back toward the main part of the station. "Will you come with me to speak to the council? They should hear this from you directly." Emma felt a mix of excitement and nervousness. Speaking to the High Council was a big moment. But she also knew that this conversation could change the relationship between humans and Volanthi forever. "I would be honored," she said as they walked. Solara glanced at her. "Dr. Harris, I have one more question." "Yes?" "This ability to mate so frequently, is it considered special among humans? Do your people value it highly?" Emma thought about how to answer. "Honestly, Princess, most humans do not think about it at all. It is just normal to us. We do not realize how unusual it is, because we have nothing to compare it to." Solara shook her head slowly. "To have such a gift and not even notice it. Humans truly are a strange species." Emma smiled. "We do our best, Princess." The High Council chamber was the largest room Emma had ever seen. It was shaped like a half circle, with seats rising up in rows like a theater. Hundreds of Volanthi sat in those seats, all of them looking down at the small platform where Emma now stood. Commander Jake Morrison and Chief Engineer Ben Collins stood beside her. Princess Solara had brought them all here together. She said the council needed to understand what she had learned. Jake leaned close to Emma. "You did not mention this would be quite so public." "I did not know," Emma whispered back. "I thought it would be a small meeting." High Councilor Varn sat in the center of the front row. He was the oldest Volanthi Emma had seen. His silver skin had deep lines, and his movements were even slower than the others. But his purple eyes were sharp and clear. "Dr. Harris," Varn said. His voice was strong despite his age. "Princess Solara has told us a remarkable story. We would like to hear it from you directly." Emma stepped forward. "Of course, Counselor. What would you like to know?" "Everything." Vaughn leaned forward in his seat. "Start from the beginning. Tell us about human reproduction." Emma took a deep breath. She had given many scientific presentations in her career, but never to an audience like this. She reminded herself that these were just facts, biology, nothing to be embarrassed about. "Humans do not have a mating season," she began. Unlike most species, we can reproduce at any time of the year. Murmurs passed through the council. Emma waited for them to quiet down before continuing. Human females experience a monthly cycle of fertility. This cycle lasts approximately 28 days. During each cycle, there is a window of about 5 days when pregnancy is most likely. However, the reproductive act itself is not limited to this window. Counselor Vaughn raised a hand. Please explain. If fertility is limited, why would the act not be limited as well? For humans, the reproductive act serves multiple purposes beyond creating offspring. It strengthens bonds between partners. It provides physical pleasure. It reduces stress. Humans often engage in the act without any intention of producing children. The murmurs grew louder. Some counselors turned to speak with their neighbors. Emma saw surprise on many faces. Continue, Vaughn said. The act itself takes anywhere from a few minutes to several hours. There is no required preparation period. The physical recovery time is very short. Most humans can engage in the act again within minutes or hours. A younger counselor stood up. Are you saying that humans can mate multiple times in a single day? Yes. Multiple times per week? Yes. Per year? Emma nodded. A healthy human couple could potentially mate hundreds of times per year if they chose to do so. The chamber erupted in noise. Volanthi were standing, talking over each other, pointing at Emma and her crewmates. High Counselor Varn had to bang his staff on the floor several times before order returned. Dr. Harris, Varn said when the room was quiet again, you must understand why we find this difficult to believe. Among my people, a mated pair might reproduce 2 or 3 times in their entire lives. The act requires extensive preparation and causes significant physical exhaustion. What you are describing is beyond anything we have encountered. Emma nodded. I understand, Counselor. Our biology is simply different. Another counselor spoke up. She was female, with lighter silver skin than the others. What about your males? How many offspring can they produce? There is no biological limit. A human male can father children from puberty until very late in life. Some males in human history have fathered dozens of children. A few have fathered over 100. The female counselor sat back in her seat. She looked genuinely shocked. Jake stepped forward. Counselors, I want to assure you that this is simply biology. Humans did not design ourselves this way. It is how we evolved on our home planet. Yes, said another counselor, an older male who had been quiet until now. But do you understand what this means? Do you see what your biology implies? Please explain, Jake said. The counselor stood and walked to a control panel on the wall. He pressed several buttons, and a holographic display appeared in the center of the chamber. It showed a map of the galaxy with different colors marking different territories. This is the current political situation in our region of space, the counselor said. The Volanthi Empire is shown in white. We control 42 star systems. We have held this territory for 4,000 years. Our population is approximately 8 billion individuals. He pressed more buttons. A small section of the map turned blue. This is human space. You have held these systems for approximately 300 years. You control 47 star systems. Your population is approximately 50 billion. Emma heard Ben whistle softly behind her. In 300 years, the counselor continued, you have taken more territory than we took in 4,000. Your population is 6 times larger than ours, and it is growing much faster. He turned off the display and looked at the humans. This is what your biology means. You are not just a young species learning to explore the stars. You are the fastest growing civilization we have ever encountered. The chamber was silent. Every Volanthi was staring at the 3 humans on the platform. High Counselor Varn spoke slowly. We have studied many species in our history. Some grow quickly at first and then slow down. Some destroy themselves before they reach maturity. Some are conquered by their neighbors. He paused. But we have never seen a species that combines your rate of reproduction with your level of technology and social organization. If current trends continue, humans will outnumber every other species in this region of space within 500 years. Jake kept his expression calm. Counselor, I assure you that humanity has no hostile intentions toward the Volanti or any other peaceful species. I believe you, Commander. But intentions can change over generations. Leaders come and go. Policies shift. Barnes stood up slowly. What does not change is biology. Your biology drives you to expand, to fill every empty space, to create new generations at a rate we can barely comprehend. This is not good or bad. It simply is. But it forces us to reconsider how we view humanity. Princess Solara stepped forward. She had been standing to the side, watching the exchange. Now she addressed the council. Honored counselors, I believe this is not a threat but an opportunity. Humans grow quickly, yes. But they also build quickly, create quickly, and solve problems quickly. Instead of fearing them, we should learn from them. We should work with them. Varn looked at her for a long moment. What exactly are you proposing, Princess? An alliance. A true partnership between our peoples. We have wisdom and stability. They have energy and growth. Together, we could achieve more than either of us could alone. The council began to murmur again, but this time the tone was different. Emma heard curiosity instead of fear. Interest instead of alarm. Varn raised his hand for silence. This is a significant proposal. It will require time to discuss and debate. For now, I thank the human delegation for their honesty. You have given us much to think about. As they left the chamber, Ben shook his head slowly. Well, that was interesting. Jake nodded. I had no idea our reproductive habits would cause such a stir. Emma was still thinking about the numbers on that display. 50 billion humans. 47 worlds. 300 years. She had always known that humanity was growing, but she had never seen it compared to another species before. The scale of it was almost frightening. What happens now? Ben asked. Princess Solara walked beside them. Now, the council debates. They will argue for days, perhaps weeks. But I believe they will agree to my proposal in the end. Why are you so sure? Jake asked. Solara looked at him with her large purple eyes. Because they are afraid, Commander. And when the Volanthi are afraid, they seek allies. It is how we have survived for 12,000 years. Jake nodded slowly. I hope you are right, Princess. I think an alliance would be good for both our peoples. So do I, Commander. So do I. 3 months passed before the council finished its debates. The human delegation had returned to Earth during that time, but they stayed in regular contact with Princess Solara. She sent messages about the discussions, about the arguments for and against the alliance, about the slow movement of Volanti politics. When the final vote came, it was not close. The council approved the alliance by a margin of 4-1. Princess Solara sent a message to Commander Jake Morrison that same day, inviting the human delegation to return for the signing ceremony. Jake brought a larger team this time. Emma Harris and Ben Collins came again, but they were joined by diplomats, scientists, and cultural experts. Earth wanted this alliance to work. They wanted to show the Volanti that humanity took the partnership seriously. The signing ceremony was held in the same great hall where Emma had addressed the council. But now the room was decorated for celebration. Banners of white and blue hung from the crystal walls. Music played from somewhere unseen, a blend of Volanti melodies and human rhythms that someone had created for the occasion. Representatives from both species filled the seats. Humans sat next to Volanthi, talking and laughing together. It was strange to see, and also wonderful. 3 months ago, the Volanthi had looked at humans with curiosity and concern. Now they looked at them with something closer to warmth. Princess Solara stood at the front of the hall. She was dressed in her finest robes, and her crystal crown caught the light as she moved. Commander Jake Morrison stood beside her, wearing his dress uniform. They made an unlikely pair, the tall silver alien and the average human man. But somehow, standing together, they looked right. High Counselor Varn called the hall to order. His voice was strong, despite his age. We gather today to witness a historic moment. The Volanthi Empire and the human species will join in formal alliance. This partnership is built on mutual respect, shared goals, and honest understanding of our differences. He paused and looked at Jake. Commander Morrison, do you speak for humanity? Jake nodded. I do, Counselor. The people of Earth and her colonies have authorized me to represent them in this matter. And Princess Solara speaks for the Volanthi Empire. Varn turned to face the audience. Let the terms of the alliance be read. A younger counselor stepped forward and read from a crystal tablet. The terms were long and detailed, covering trade, military cooperation, cultural exchange, and dozens of other topics. Jake had helped negotiate many of them over the past 3 months. He knew every word. When the reading was finished, Varn gestured to the princess and the commander. You may now seal the agreement. In Volanthi tradition, important agreements were sealed by pressing hands together and speaking words of commitment. Jake had practiced this with Emma many times. He turned to face Solara and raised his right hand, palm forward. Solara raised her own hand to meet his. Her silver palm was cool against his skin. She was taller than him, so she had to lean down slightly, but somehow this only made the moment feel more significant. I, Solara of the Volanthi Empire, commit my people to this alliance, she said clearly. We will stand with humanity in times of peace and times of trouble. We will share our wisdom and learn from your energy. We will face the future together. Jake spoke the words he had prepared. I, Jake Morrison, representing the people of Earth and her colonies, commit humanity to this alliance. We will honor the Volanthi and all we can learn from them. We will share our growth without overshadowing our partners. We will face the future together. Their hands pressed together for a moment longer. Then they stepped apart, and the hall erupted in applause. After the ceremony, there was a celebration that lasted for hours. Volanthi and human delegates mingled freely. Jake found himself in conversation with counselors who had originally opposed the alliance. They were polite now, even friendly. He suspected that Solara had done a lot of work behind the scenes to change their minds. Late in the evening, he found a quiet moment to stand at one of the great windows overlooking space. Stars filled the darkness in every direction. Somewhere out there, human ships were traveling to new worlds. New colonies were being built. New children were being born. The wave of humanity continued to spread. Emma joined him at the window. It is strange, is it not? A few months ago, we came here for a routine diplomatic visit. Now we have an alliance that will shape the next 1,000 years of history. All because of one question, Jake said. One question about something we never even think about. Biology is powerful. Emma smiled. I never thought my field would be so important to diplomacy. Princess Solara approached them. She moved more easily among humans now. She had learned to read their expressions and match their pace. You know, she said, looking out at the stars. When I first asked Dr. Harris that question, I was prepared for many answers. I thought perhaps humans had a slightly longer fertility window, or perhaps your males could reproduce more frequently than ours. I was expecting small differences. But you got big differences, Emma said. The biggest I have ever encountered. Solara shook her head slowly. And yet, here we are, standing together as allies, looking at the same stars and dreaming of the same future. Jake turned to face her. You made this happen, Princess. You saw an opportunity where others saw a threat. You convinced your people to trust us. I convinced them to take a chance, Solara corrected. Trust will take longer. It will take years of working together, proving ourselves to each other, building something real. She looked at him with her large purple eyes. But I believe it will happen. I believe our peoples will become true friends, not just allies. Why are you so confident? Solara was quiet for a moment, gathering her thoughts. Because of what I have learned about humanity. You are driven by your biology to grow and spread, but you are not controlled by it. You make choices. You build civilizations that channel your energy into creation instead of destruction. You look at the universe with wonder instead of fear. She turned back to the stars. The Volanthi are old and wise, but we have grown tired. We move slowly because we have forgotten how to move quickly. We plan carefully because we have forgotten how to take risks. Your species reminds us of what we used to be, what we could be again. Jake felt the weight of her words. This alliance was not just about trade or military cooperation. It was about two civilizations learning from each other. The Volanthi would teach humanity patience and wisdom. Humanity would teach the Volanthi energy and growth. Together, they might become something greater than either could be alone. I have a question for you, Princess, he said. When you look at the future, what do you see? Solara smiled. It was a gesture she had fully mastered now, natural and warm. I see human children playing with Volanthi children on worlds that do not yet have names. I see our scientists working together to solve problems neither of us could solve alone. I see our artists creating new forms of beauty that blend our traditions. I see our people spreading across the galaxy side by side, filling the empty spaces with life and stories. She paused. Is that too hopeful? No, Jake said. That is exactly what I see too. The celebration continued around them, voices and laughter filling the crystal hall. Human and Volanthi talked and ate and danced together. Some of them were already making plans for joint projects, scientific expeditions, cultural exchanges. The future was being built right here, right now, one conversation at a time, dot above them. Through the transparent dome, the stars burned with ancient light. They had been shining for billions of years, waiting for someone to reach them. Now, two species would make that journey together. It had all started with a simple question about human biology. A question asked out of curiosity, answered with honesty. And from that small beginning, a great partnership had grown. Emma watched her crewmates talking with Volanthi delegates. Ben was explaining something about ship engines to a fascinated counselor. Jake was deep in conversation with High Counselor Varn. Princess Solara moved through the crowd, speaking to everyone, making sure humans and Volanthi were mixing well. This is what first contact should look like, Emma thought. Not fear and suspicion, but curiosity and understanding. Not competition, but cooperation. She took one last look at the stars and then walked back into the celebration. There was work to do, friendships to build, a future to create. And for the first time in a long time, that future looked very bright indeed. The story of humanity and the Volanthi was just beginning. Where it would lead, no one could say for certain. But standing together in that crystal hall, surrounded by light and laughter and hope, everyone felt that they were part of something special, something that would echo through the ages, something that started with one question and grew into something wonderful. And really, was that not the best way for any great story to begin? The days after the council meeting were strange ones for the human delegation. The Volanthi treated them differently now. Before, they had been guests, interesting visitors from a young species. Now, they were something else. Something more important. Jake noticed it in the way Volanti stepped aside when he walked through the corridors. He saw it in the way they looked at him, with a mix of respect and something that might have been nervousness. Word had spread through the station about what Dr. Harris had told the council. Everyone knew now. On the fifth day, Princess Solara invited Jake to her private quarters for a meeting. It was unusual. Most of their conversations had happened in public spaces with guards and advisors present. This was different. Her quarters were at the top of one of the crystal towers. The walls were transparent, giving a view of the stars in every direction. It was beautiful and a little overwhelming. "Thank you for coming, Commander," Solara said. She gestured toward a seating area near one of the windows. "Please, sit." Jake sat down on a chair that was designed for a Volanti body. It was not quite comfortable, but he managed. "You wanted to speak with me privately, Princess?" "Yes." Solara sat across from him. She was not wearing her crown today. She looked younger without it, more like a person and less like a symbol. "The council is still debating, but I wanted to share some things with you. Things that might help you understand our perspective." "I appreciate that." Solara looked out at the stars. "My advisors are frightened of humanity. Some of them wanted to recommend that we prepare for war. They think that your species will eventually try to take our territory, that it is only a matter of time." Jake felt his heart beat faster, but he kept his voice calm. "And what do you think?" "I think they are wrong." Solara turned back to face him. "But I also understand why they feel this way. Let me show you something." She pressed a button on the arm of her chair. A holographic display appeared between them. It showed a timeline with population figures for both species. 300 years ago, humanity had one planet and 6 billion people. Today, you have 47 planets and 50 billion people. If you continue at this rate, in another 300 years, you will have hundreds of planets and hundreds of billions of people. Jake studied the projection. Those are estimates. Many things could change. True, but consider this. Solara adjusted the display to show Volanti history. 12,000 years ago, my people had one planet and 2 billion individuals. Today, we have 42 planets and 8 billion individuals. In 12,000 years, we grew by a factor of 4. In 300 years, you grew by a factor of 8. Do you see the difference? I see the numbers. But numbers do not tell the whole story. No, they do not. Solara turned off the display. The numbers show growth. They do not show intention. They do not show character. That is why I wanted to speak with you privately. I want to understand who humans really are, not just what they are capable of. Jake thought carefully about how to respond. This was an important moment. Whatever he said now could shape the relationship between their species for generations. "Humans are complicated," he finally said. "We have done great things and terrible things throughout our history. We have built beautiful cities, and we have destroyed them. We have created art and music and science, and we have also created weapons and wars. That sounds like most species. Perhaps. But there is something else about us." Jake leaned forward. "We never stop trying to be better. Even when we fail, even when we make mistakes, we keep trying. We teach our children to be kinder than we were. We build new systems to prevent the mistakes of the past. We are not perfect, Princess. We are not even close to perfect. But we are always reaching for something higher." Solara studied him for a long moment. "And what are you reaching for, Commander? What does humanity want?" "We want to explore, to discover, to understand the universe and our place in it." Jake gestured toward the stars outside the window. "When we look at the sky, we see possibility. Every star might have a world. Every world might have life. Every form of life might teach us something new about ourselves. And when you find those worlds, you fill them with humans. Yes, we do. Jake did not try to deny it. We build homes and raise families. We create communities and cultures. But we also preserve what we find. We study alien ecosystems. We learn from ancient ruins. We do not simply consume. We try to add something to the universe, not just take from it. Solara was quiet for a while. When she spoke again, her voice was softer. You know, when I first asked Dr. Harris about human reproduction, I expected a simple answer. I thought perhaps humans were fertile twice a year instead of once every 4 years. I thought the difference would be small, but it was not small. No, it was enormous. Solara shook her head slowly. And yet, the more I learn about your species, the less frightened I become. Do you know why? Tell me. Because you are still here. Solara stood up and walked to the window. Your species could reproduce without limit. Your population could have exploded beyond control thousands of years ago. You could have destroyed your homeworld through overcrowding and resource depletion. But you did not. You learned to manage your growth. You developed technology to expand to new worlds. You created social systems to prevent chaos. She turned to face him. That tells me something important about humanity. It tells me that you are not slaves to your biology. You can control it. You can choose. Jake stood and joined her at the window. We have made many mistakes along the way. Our history is full of wars and famines and suffering. But you survived them. You learned from them. And now you are here, reaching for the stars. Solara looked at him with something new in her eyes. Respect, perhaps. Or hope. My advisors see humanity as a threat because of your numbers. But I see you as an example. You have taken a powerful biological drive and shaped it into something constructive. That is remarkable, Commander. That is worthy of admiration. Jake felt a warmth in his chest that had nothing to do with the temperature of the room. Thank you, Princess. That means a great deal. I will advocate for the alliance when the council votes, Solara said. But I want something from you in return. Name it. When your species fills the galaxy, as I now believe you will, remember that you are not alone in it. Remember the Velanthi. Remember all the slower species who will watch your growth with wonder and perhaps with fear. Be kind to us. Include us in your future. Do not leave us behind. Jake nodded slowly. You have my word, Princess. Humanity will not forget its friends. I hope you are right. Solara turned back to the stars. The universe is very large, Commander. There is room for all of us, but only if we choose to share it. They stood together in silence for a while, watching the lights in the darkness. Jake thought about all the humans scattered across those 47 worlds. Farmers and scientists, artists and engineers, children playing in streets under alien suns. All of them part of a great wave of life spreading outward from one small blue planet. And somewhere in that future, if things went well today, the Velanthi would be spreading with them. Not as rivals, but as partners. Not watching from the side, but building together. I should return to my crew, Jake finally said. But thank you for this conversation, Princess. It helped me understand things I did not understand before. Thank you, Commander. Solara smiled, a gesture she had been practicing. It looked almost natural now. I believe this is the beginning of something important. For both our peoples. Jake bowed his head in the Velanthi manner and left her quarters. As he walked back through the crystal corridors, he felt like something had changed. The universe felt bigger now, and at the same time, less lonely. Whatever the council decided, he knew that this moment mattered. Two species from different stars had found a way to understand each other. In the grand scale of history, that was no small thing.